Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on two-part analysis questions on the Data Insights section of the GMAT Focus Edition test. In this webinar, we are going to discuss some of the hardest questions that have less than 40% accuracy, and for which students take upwards of 3 minutes and even 4 minutes to solve. What we are going to do in this webinar is we're going to see how is it that we can build our ability to solve these questions correctly with complete confidence and within the timing constraints of the test. My name is Payal Tandon. I'm one of the co-founders of EGMAT, and I'm here as your main host. With me, I have Aditi, who's going to be supporting us on the chat here. Do you find two-part analysis questions awfully similar to quant? And we are focusing on quant questions in this one. TPA, two-part analysis questions are both from verbal category as well as quant category, although even though I'm saying we'll be focusing on quant, but there is a lot of verbal aspect that a lot of aspects of verbal that we have to handle. All right, so good. Good start. So I understand where you guys are facing problems. So we're going to get warmed up with an easier question. The data set is not as involved as the other questions that I'm going to be taking up in this session. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you the question on the screen. I'm not going to time you. I'm going to give you a form link in the comment section, and I want you to enter your responses in that form. And then once we get good number of responses going, I'm going to share the results, and then we are going to be solving this question together. I'm going to be solving this question real time in front of you. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So don't put your answers in the comments over here. And all right, so let's get this going here. Here is your first question. And let me share the link as well. Here is the link. Let's see if it comes. Yes. Okay, last 10 seconds. Put in your answers and then we're going to start discussing this question. I see around 30 students watching, but I only have about 8 responses yet. That's the reason why I'm giving you guys a little bit more time. All right, I'm going to end the poll now and we're going to start discussing this. Okay. So I have about 8 responses, and 63% of everyone has 63% of the participants have selected correct answer for the first one. Let's see, it has updated. So yeah, 67%, and here also for second one as well, 67%. So 6 of you have answered this question correctly, 3 of you have not, and then others, I'm not sure where they were at in terms of solving this question. So let's look at this and understand what is it. How is it that you should have solved this question? Now, this is one of the easier ones, as I said, and this question, you guys took almost about 3 minutes to solve this. Again, the first 2 responses came within 45 seconds. So unless you guys had already seen this question or you have the right kind of process. So again, that's something for those 2 people to decide. Now, how is it that you should be solving this? This should be solvable within a minute and a half or so. And here's how. When you're looking at this, whenever you're reading a data set, you should always be reading it with complete control. Now, what do I mean by complete control? What I mean is when you're reading it, you should not be thinking about anything else. Your mind should be completely immersed within this data set. Okay, so here's how I would do. Angelica and Basil are playing a game with this set of ordered pairs. Now, whenever I see this ordered pairs, I understand that the sequence here will not change. So 1 3 is not going to be 3 1, right? So these are not interchangeable here. In each ordered pair, now there's some more information. The first number is Angelica's preference, which means that 1 will be A's preference. So each one of these, right? And then second number is Basil's preference. So second one will be Basil's preference. Okay, so I understand that. Now this is some game, right? Angelica takes the first turn and removes an ordered pair from set S. So she removes that. Basil takes the second turn and removes an ordered pair from among remaining from the set. So Angelica picks up 1, remaining are 3. Basil picks up another 1, remaining are 2. Now, how is it that Angelica is picking it? She is picking it based on, okay, so that information is not here. So that thought is in my head, that what is the criteria that Angelica is using to pick that ordered pair. So I'm thinking about it. I'm completely immersed in this game. I'm thinking about that, and then I'm looking for that information. But so far, the passage hasn't given me that information, so I move on. They continue taking turns until all the ordered pairs have been removed, okay, at which the game is over. I understand when the game would be over. Now, it's a game, so there has to be a score. So each player's final score is equal to the sum of that player's preference numbers for the ordered pairs he or she has removed, which means that I have to take their preference number and only from the things that they have removed. Okay, that's important to understand. And that has registered in my mind. Okay, now, so let's go to the next part. Assume that each pair always selects the available ordered pair for which his or her preference number is the greatest. So that is what I was looking for when I was reading the data set. And now I have that information that it has to be the greatest, right? My preference number has to be the greatest. So what I have to now select is select the value for Angelica's final score and Basil's final score. So Angelica's and Basil. So that's it. So I have to now play the game. And here is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to first so Angelica's turn is first, right? So A is going to pick up what? She's going to pick up 4 and 4. So this one is here. And now I circle this because I know that this is going to add to my term. This number is actually going to be part of the score. Next one is going to be what? B is going to pick up 1 and 3. Why? Because that is the largest number for her. Now, what is left? These 2 are left. Now, what's Angelica going to pick up? 3, 2. And then what is Basil going to pick up? 2, 1. Now, what is the score here? Score is going to be 7. And here the score is going to be 4. So the correct answer here is 7 and 4. That's it. Now, how long did you guys take to solve this versus how long did I take to solve this? I read the entire data set, right? I did not think about, okay, what am I reading? Am I skipping this? I did not skip even a single word. Okay. As I was reading it, I was so immersed in the data set that I was asking questions. I wanted to play that game myself. It was as if I wanted to be in that game. I understood all the rules of the game, and then I played the game myself and I came up with the answer. So now what I want to hear from you is that what was different from this approach versus the approach that some of you used? And again, there are lots and lots of questions like this one. Now, this one, one reason why this is considered difficult is because whenever there's a mention of game, whenever there's mention of this ordered pairs, we somehow, some of us really have that mental block that, oh my God, there is a game, which means there's going to be lots of rules. Again, you have to remove those preconceptions, right? You have to simply take the data set, immerse yourself in it, and then just solve it. So Salvador started with the options below, got what's needed, and then briefed through the STEM. Okay. Um, all right. So again, over here, Salvador, you have to first understand the data set. If you start off with the question STEM, then you're losing a lot of the essence of that data set, and then you may end up getting confused. So always start with the data set, immerse yourself, and then move forward. Now, Prabhat is asking, you didn't get why Basil picked 1-3 and not 3-2. Prabhat, how is it that each one of them are picking up the picking this up? What you see is that they pick up based on whenever their preference number is greatest, right? So when you're asking about one between 1-3 and 3-2, right? So when there is 1-3 and 3-2, where is the preference number of Basil greatest? It is for 1-3, right? Because Basil's preference number is the second number, right? Three amongst 3-2, between 1-3 and 3-2, 3 is the bigger number. That's the reason why Basil picks up 1-3. Got it, Prabhat? How about others? How did others do this question? What was different between my approach and the approach that you guys utilized to solve this question? Because that is the very essence of how is it that you need to answer two-part analysis questions. You have to own this data set, and owning of the data set happens only when you are completely immersed in the data set and you are interacting with the data set. Okay, so Marcin, you did exactly the same way, just messed up the answer. Elaborate. First of all, really good that you answered it exactly the same way because that's the way to do it. Now, where did you mess up the answer? Did you not add the right terms? Or did you not select the right terms? So that's very important to understand, that where did you mess up, because that's where your learning needs to be. Did you not add them the right? Did you make a mistake in picking the right numbers to add, or did you pick the wrong answer choice? That's very important. And how about others? Because after this, we are moving on to our second question, which is going to be a little bit more involved than this one. Navshinder did the same way, thought of myself as Angelica and playing this game with another person, and thought which number will be picked by whom. Good job, really good. So keep up that effort, and let's take that effort to our next question. Okay, so I'm going to share the poll for the next question. So let me do that. It was relatively on the easier side. So not much going on, could predict the information. Yes, this was relatively on the, I didn't want you guys to get started with the most difficult question. So let's get going here, right? Still the accuracy was 67%. So still there were people who messed up, right? So again, we have to get the right process going here. All right. So let me now share the next question, and let's get the poll for that one. Okay, there you go. And here is the next question. On the screen, I'm just going to show you the data set, okay? All right, I am going to share the results now. You guys have done really well on this question, so good job here. Yeah, let's see. I'm very happy to see this. The accuracy for this question on gmatclub is about 57%. But here, all of you, whoever responded, we have 10 votes, and all of you did answer this question correctly. So really good. So I'm going to breeze through this one. Tell me what was the inference that you drew in this question? So because all of you have gotten the question right, so tell me, what is the inference that you drew from this question? Because that's the biggest learning from this one. So my question is, what is the inference that you drew? How did you solve this question? So essentially over here, shortcut, yeah, but what was the shortcut here? That's what I want you to tell me. So here what you have is sales department. So let me just do it real quick. Sales and tech, you have 60x, 100x. This was before the expansion. After the expansion, which is the current thing, what you have is 12 employees and 15 employees, right? So now what you need to figure out is, what is the percent increase here? That's what you need to figure out. And what's the percent increase here? That's what you need to figure out, right? Now, if you were to simply set up this equation, you won't really have, you need the value of x, but you don't know the value of x. But there is that inference that you can draw over here purely from the information that is over here, 60x and 100x. Now, what is that inference? That inference is that earlier sales to tech, the ratio was 3:5. How? Because it's 60x over 100x. If you simplify that, you get 3/5, right? Okay. So here, what does that mean? This means that all of the salespeople before, the number of salespeople is a multiple of 3x, and the number of tech people is a multiple of 5. That is what you get to know. Okay, multiple of 5. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that in all of our, now because our current value is 12 for the sales folks, this means that this number before was actually less than 12. Okay. So now you have these two bits of information. One is that the number of salespeople before, it was a multiple of 3, and the other thing is that this multiple of 3 was actually less than 12, which means that the potential values of sales number was 3, 6, 9, right? On the other hand, for the tech department, accordingly, this would be 5, 10, 15. But 15 is not possible. Why? Because the number earlier needs to be less than 15, right? Which means that the only two possible combinations are 3, 5 or 6, 10. So now what you do is you simply so you simply see which ones are going to match. Now, if sales earlier was 3 and now it's 12, this is a much larger percent increase, whereas over here you're maxing out at 100%, which means that this combination is not possible. So the only combination that seems to be possible is sales is equal to 6 going to 12, which is a 100% increase. Now let's see, if sales is 6, then that means tech will be 5 going to 15, and then so tech will be 10 going to 15, and that is a 50% increase. So you have this as the answer. Okay, now tell me, how is it that you have solved this question? Were you able to draw this inference? And if you drew this inference, because such inferences are really, really very helpful. Because as you build your skills in drawing such inferences, in finding opportunities to draw such inferences, what will end up happening is that you will be able to shorten the process to solve such questions. Otherwise, what you may be so you may be relying too much on the answer choices. Answer choices should be looked at only after you have drawn certain inferences. That's exactly what we did over here. Does that make sense? So Rajat, when you do reverse calculations by looking at percent options, again, you're relying too much on the answer choices. Okay. And in that case, it may so happen that the answer choices may not lend to an easier solution. So in two-part analysis question, for that matter, in all of data insights, you need to find ways of making your processing a lot faster, making your processing as efficient as possible. Absolutely, Edward. First draw the inference and then look for the answer. Because as you build that skill, you will be able to find so many opportunities that right away, you won't even look at the choices right away. As soon as you see this 60x and 100x, you're going to draw that inference that, oh, this is 60x means sales number was a multiple of 3. Tech number was a multiple of 5. Now let me see. There is another inference that 60x has to be less than 12. 100x has to be less than 15, right? So I can now narrow down my options. Now, instead of 3 different options, I have only 2 options. Now I see how the percentage increase or decrease is going to work. Is that helpful? So if you are liking what you are learning over here, I want you guys to hit the like button. And I also want you to write your learnings in the content, in the comments for this video, not over here, but in the comments for the video, so that when others are watching this recording, they can also understand that they need to have that they should have gotten this takeaway, because that's really going to be helpful for them. Okay, so as you do that, I'm going to now share the next question. So let's do that. By the way, you guys are doing really well. Just make sure that you continue drawing such inferences. Okay, I don't want you to be in that mindset of answering a question by hook or by crook. Okay, rely on answer choices only after you've drawn the inferences. Okay, all right, so let's get to the next question here. Okay, so here is the third question, the form for third question, and here is your question. Answer choices you can see in the form so that you see this question in almost full screen. So clearly, this question is a lot more involved as compared to the previous two questions. Even on gmatclub, the accuracy, it takes about, so I believe that the accuracy is about 45%. And this question, people are taking upwards of 4 minutes to solve this question. And today also, I'm seeing the same thing. Let me check the results right now. I have 6 responses. So let me share the results now, and then we're going to discuss this question in detail. Most and very intently, what we're going to talk about is how is it that you should be able to solve this question faster within 2 minutes. That's what we're going to focus on. So here again, 50% accuracy for the first part here, and likewise 50% accuracy for the second part. And usually what I see is people who get it and people who solve it in less time, they are able to answer it correctly. People who don't have the right approach or who haven't absorbed everything from the data set, they are the ones who take longer, and they are the ones who may not be able to answer the question correctly as well. So tell me, what was complicated about this question before I go into the detailed solution of this one? So tell me about that. All right, I don't see any responses yet. Tell me, what was difficult about this question? Dealing with three variables is time consuming. Absolutely, Ganesh. Dealing with three variables, and you actually have only two equations. So, three variables, but only two equations. Absolutely. What else? What else was difficult about this? There wasn't too much text. This is a typical problem solving type question. No correlation between the number of seats. That's interesting. Then Salvador says, I saw bad numbers, so didn't go for the options, eliminated main floor instantly since that wasn't asked from the stem. Okay, you saw bad numbers. Okay, I really don't understand how numbers can be good or bad. So let's solve this. Only two equations for three variables. So that was the main thing. And this is where, when you have such things, three variables but two equations, that is where drawing inferences becomes very, very critical. And that is the skill, that's the muscle that each one of you needs to build from every question that you solve. Okay, now let's look at this and solve this together. So again, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but when you're reading the question, what you have to do is you have to arrive at the entire visualization of the question. So you have these 500 seats, right? They're on main floor. Main floor ones are for $50. So write this down in your notes. Then you have the first balcony, $45. And then you have the second balcony and $35. So as you are reading this, you need to be making notes. Okay. You shouldn't worry about what the choices are. As you're reading this, make these notes. Now, you also know that when all the seats were sold, the revenue was 20,900. Now you also know that m plus f plus s is equal to 500. So utilize your notes in that manner, right? And then you obviously know you can formulate your equation as 50m plus 45f plus 35s is equal to 20900. Now, what is asked? Select for first balcony. Sorry about that. Select for first balcony the number of seats, right? And select for the second balcony the number of seats. And we also know that the second balcony has the maximum number, has the highest number of seats. Okay, so that's what we have to find, which means that we need to solve for f and s. Right now, how do I do that? I have two equations here, so what I can do is I can eliminate m because I don't need m. Now how can I do that? I can simply multiply both sides over here with 50. Okay, and what do I get? Let's write this down. I get 50m plus 50f plus 50s is equal to 2500. So I do this, I get 5f plus 15s is equal to 4100. And then I simplify, f plus 3s is equal to 820. That's what I get. Everyone got this? F plus 3s is equal to 820. Okay. How come you guys are not seeing? There's nothing coming on the screen. Uh, okay, let me see what happened here. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know what happened. That's what I just realized. I worked out the whole problem here, but I don't see it being reflected. You don't see my. Hmm. Okay. Let's see. Let me remove this. And all right. Think. Let me join back. I'm not sure what's going on. Um, yeah, the screen is not changing at all. That's so surprising. Yeah, after that, it's just start choosing. Okay, all right. Okay. Guys, I need to log out and then come back in. Um, Although I'm not sure if that's going to help. Okay. All right. Now you guys can see it? Yes, now I'm back. So I had to reshare. I had to stop the share and then start again. So once you get this equation, what do you do? What inferences do you draw over here? You need to find the value of f and s, right? So how do you do this? Over here, what you have to do is you have to observe that this is a multiple of 3, right? 3s means that it's a multiple of 3. But 820 is not a multiple of 3. Okay. Like if 820 is not a multiple of 3, but 3s is a multiple of 3, what does that tell you about this f? What this tells you is that f is also not a multiple of 3. Okay. Which means that from these answer choices, you can eliminate all the answer choices for f which are multiples of 3. Which means now you are left with 100, 190, and 250. Okay, now you look at the answer choices. You basically put in one of these answer choices and then you find. So each one of these one by 100, 190, and then 250. And what you'll get is that so you'll get 190 as the answer over here. So you basically do f is, let's put 100 as f, plus 3s is equal to 820. So when you do that, you'll get s as 240, which is not in the answer choices. And ultimately, it's going to be 190 over here. And then over here, it's going to be 210. Okay. Got it? So again, what you have to do is you have to make sure that you always try to draw these inferences, okay? Because if you don't draw these inferences, then you will end up looking at each one of these answer choices, plugging it in one by one, and being at the mercy of the answer choices as to whether the correct answer choice is amongst the top or amongst the bottom, okay? Does that make sense? And that's kind of the theme of this session, wherein you immerse yourself, you extract all the information from the data set into your structure. And then when you arrive at this point, instead of getting panicky or instead of relying on the answer choices, you rely on these inferences. And when you do that, then what happens is instead of spending 3 minutes and 45 seconds to answer this question, you can actually solve this question in about 2 minutes. How? You spend about 40 seconds reading the data set and coming up with the equations. Then you solve the equations within 25 seconds, and nobody had problems with that, right? And then you essentially draw the inferences and you shortlist your answer choices. So you have to put your pen down, take a step back, and just immerse yourself in this equation f plus 3s is equal to 820 and see what all can you extract from it. Got it? So again, Marcin, if you, again, what the approach that you are using, that again relies on the answer choices. What if the answer choices are not worded that way? But if you utilize these inferences then you have a sure short way. Then you learning from one question to another, you can take learnings from one question to another by building these inference skills. Does that make sense? The way what we did with the last question was we essentially shortlisted our options based on this entire thing about multiple of 3 and multiple of 5. That's the, in our mind we were drawing those inferences. The same way here we are looking at this expression and we are drawing this inference that yes, 3s is a multiple of 3, a20 is not a multiple of 3, which means f is a multiple of 3. So utilize these inferences to do smart analysis of the answer choices. Okay, that is what you have to do. Don't go blindly into the answer choices. Does that make sense? And another thing is, don't shy away from trying out answer choices. Once you once you shortlisted from 6 3 answer choices, you were left with only 3. Then you patiently go one by one and then figure out what the answer is. Exactly, Salvador. You have to still depend on the answers, but it's how you have to shortlist the answer choices, get in that mindset of drawing inferences. Because as you, again, when you're practicing questions, you have to ask yourself, when you're practicing questions, what's the goal? Your goal is to build your ability to solve questions, any kind of questions that are thrown at you. Okay. But if you are relying only on the answer choices, right, then you're not building that skill set. In order to build that skill set, you have to first rely on your inferences. Okay, that's the skill set that you need to build. And if that single learning you take with you from this session, I would say this session is successful from my standpoint, and it should be successful from your standpoint as well, because that inference drawing ability, that is something which is very, very critical. Okay. So you've seen two ways of drawing inference. One was wherein you took the multiple part, okay, and the other one was wherein you simply, okay, yeah, wherein you simply took this f plus 3s is equal to 820. What is it that you can extract from that? Okay. All right. Now I'm going to take a. Let's actually go to this next question now, and then yeah, this will be a very interesting question. So let me give you the next poll here. There you go. And I'm going to increase the size of this one. All right, I am going to now share the results for this one. So 56% accuracy for the first one and 44% accuracy for the second one. So overall 44% accuracy here. Okay. So tell me, what was difficult in this question? First of all, a very big data set here, right? So there's a lot of information in this data set. Now, this is where when you see data sets such as this one, that's where you have to really pause and read each bit of information one by one, right? Understanding it completely. Don't jump into the question. Don't jump into the answer choices at all. There is some calculation involved here, but very minimal here. Okay, so let's look at how I would solve this question. A farmer wants to allocate her expenditures to maximize her profit. So I need to maximize the profits, and I've given something about the expenditures in the coming year. Okay, during the coming year, let C be her spending on cropland, F spending on fertilizer, L M. So again, spending means expenditure, right? And she is estimated that if she allocates at least 100 euros to each one of these categories, then her profits will be this. So I have this expression for profits, okay? And this profit expression is based on the expenditure that this person is making, okay? And the minimum value over here is 100 euros, okay? That's important to understand. She wishes to calculate the benefits of expenditure greater than 100 euros in one of these categories if she were to spend exactly 100 euros in each of the others. Okay, so essentially, instead of spending 100 on everything, what she says is, what if I spend more than 100 on just one of these categories and then 100 on everything else, and then see what happens. So select for greatest returns the resource for which, according to the desired calculation, each euro. So this each euro is actually giving you a hint of how to process this information. Okay, how to use this information. Beyond 100 euros is predicted to make the greatest contribution of the profit. Okay, so essentially this is a maximization problem and a minimization problem. And what are you maximizing, what are you minimizing? Okay, can you guys hear me? For some reason my camera is not coming. That's surprising. Okay, a lot of technical. Okay. Start camera. Okay. You guys can hear me now, right? Okay, sorry about that. The connection here kind of got loose. So here again, what you have to do is you have to first understand what this expression is, right? So this expression is C minus 97. I'm going to write this down. L minus 92, S minus 95, pretty big expression, M minus 87, and then F minus 90. Now, this is the expression that you have to maximize by changing one of these numbers beyond 100. And what we'll do is, because what we are saying is each euro of spending, we'll make one of these 101, Remaining, we'll just keep as 100. So first, let's figure out what the baseline profit is. To figure out the baseline profit, you're going to make everything 100, right? So baseline is going to be at 100, which means this is 3, which means this is 8, this is 5, this is 13, and then this is 10, right? Everyone with me so far? Now, I have to maximize this and I have to minimize this. In what scenario will this number, so what I need to do is I need to take a look at what is the smallest number over here and what is the largest number over here, because if I change the smallest and the largest and I see the impact of that on the overall product, I should be, everything else is going to fall within that. Okay, so that's what I do. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to first assume that this C number is actually 101. Okay, which means that this difference is going to become 4. All of the others will remain the same. So I'm going to keep them in this different color. Okay, and then I'm going to also make this as 13 because that's what I'm changing. And then this is 10. Okay, now I'm going to make my M as 101. Okay, so next one will be my M as 101. And then what I'm going to do is over here, again, my next case is going to be, this is going to remain as 3. Okay, and then this is 8. This is 5. This will become 14. And then this will remain as 10. Okay, now I'm going to see what the impact of the product is. Here, all of these are the same, right? So the product is not going to change because of these, but the product is going to change because of this number and this number. And this is going to be 52 over here. This 3 times 14, that is 42. So when you change cropland to 101, that's when you get greatest profit. When you change machinery to 101, that's where you get least profit. Okay, which means that the correct answer over here is greatest returns is cropland, machinery is least returns. Now, if you did the other way around, then you jumped your analysis. You thought because machinery is 13, and if you increase that to 14, this is a bigger number, so that's going to have a bigger impact. Then that means you didn't draw your inference all the way through. You didn't observe as to what the other number over here is, because what you have to do is you have to maximize the product. Does that make sense? And again, this question, time taken typically by students is upwards of 2.5 minutes. But if you solve it slowly by reading the data set and then reading the question, look at this over here. In this question, you had to read the question also very carefully. So you spend 20 seconds just understanding the question and then executing the approach and determining the approach and then executing the approach. That will take a long time here, 1.5 minutes. But overall, if you add everything up, it is possible to solve this question in under 2.5 minutes. But that happens only if you own the data set completely and if you draw the appropriate inference about how the product can be maximized and how it can be minimized. Tell me, what are your learnings from this one? All right, I'm not to take the extra step to ensure accuracy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And in this case, I would say it was just premature because a number of you would have answered this one incorrectly because you just jumped, 14. Yes. Read the text twice just in case to ensure right inference. Absolutely. All right. So guys, how are you finding this session so far? What have you learned overall so far? Are you feeling more comfortable? So Navshinder, over here, we are talking about the profits only because this equation was for profits. Okay. So when you are, so C was giving maximum profit By changing C from 100 to 101, you were getting maximum profits. Why? Because by doing that, you were multiplying 4 with 13, right? So that was giving you the maximum profit. Ankur, take a few steps to calculate a few steps before prematurely deriving solution. Yes, that is very, very important. All right. So let's move to our next question now, which is a fairly interesting question here. So I'm going to share the poll with you guys, but you guys can start reading this question. All right, I don't have a lot of responses yet. Only 4 of you have put in your responses. So, do you guys want some more time or should we discuss this question? All right, so let's discuss this question. What was very difficult? What was difficult about this one? Tell me. The answers are the responses. Only 20% of you got the first part right, and only 30% got the second part right. So the accuracy of this question is 20%. And typically, people take, let's look at this, about 3 minutes. But again, if you understand this properly, you can actually solve this question in under 2.5 minutes. So, what was difficult about this? Understanding the question is really hard. Absolutely. There's lots going on in this very complex data set. And that's where you really have to own that data set. Okay. So, let's do this bit by bit. Okay. So, through a certain decade in a European city, the mean monthly rent. So, you see over here 10 years, right? A decade means 10 years, right? Mean monthly rents for studio apartments varied yearly. So, this means that for every year, mean monthly rent was actually calculated, right? So you have about 10 points over, so you'll have 10 points over here. And what is this for? This is for the studio apartments, okay? And what did they vary from 804 to 1173? So that's for the studio apartments. That's number one. Then what you have is those for one bedroom apartments also varied yearly. So you have something for one bedroom apartment also. So far, what you know is, and let me put this thing down. So far, what you know is that there is the studio apartment and then there is this one bedroom apartment. Those are the two kinds of apartments. And then we have the ranges for the monthly rents, right? So you have the range for both of these, okay? But some individual studio apartments rented for as little as 420 and some one bedroom rented for 2262 as well. Now observe that this 420 is actually way less than this number over here, way less than the range over here for studio apartment, right? Likewise, this 2262 is way over the range, the upper limit over here for the studio, for the one bedroom apartment. So it's basically the author has given us some outliers over here. First of all, they've given us that okay, the monthly rent is from 804 to 1173 for studio apartment, and the 1060 to 14974 for these one bedroom apartments. And then they're talking about these outliers over here, okay? To visually assess, now with all that information provided, then what they're saying is to visually assess how the ratio of mean monthly rents for studio apartments to those for one bedroom apartments varied yearly over the decade, Maria requires a graph with the following characteristics. Now all of this information over here, you can just glean through that, because this is just telling the intent behind the graph. What we are really concerned about are the characteristics of that graph, right? The graph will have two axes of equal length, so two axes of equal length, right? With mean rents for one bedroom apartments shown on the horizontal axis and mean rents for studio apartments on the vertical axis. So this is for the studio apartments. For each year, mean rents will be plotted as a point. Okay. From the following options, select for horizontal axis, range for points for horizontal, blah, blah. Okay. So here what I have to do is these axes will have equal length. That is very important. Okay. That's the most important thing over here, that these axes are of equal length. Now, how do I go about doing it? My first thing over here is, my first question to you is, did these numbers bother you? 2262 and 420. Did you get confused as to how to utilize this information? Because that's point number one, that these two are outliers. They are not to be plotted on this chart. All Maria is saying is that I need to graph these two ranges for the one bedroom apartment and range for the studio apartment, and my condition is that both of these have to be equal. Okay, so before we go into the analysis of the range, what we'll do is we have these options over here, right? So let me bring these options right next to my screen here. Now observe these options first. This one is 1500. The range for this one is 1500, because the range for both the axes needs to be the same, right? This one is 700. This one is again 400. this one is 1300, and this one is 400, which means that from the answer choices, you can select this choice and this choice for horizontal and vertical. That is possible because these are equal, right? 400 and 400. But if you were to select 1500, then you will need to select 1500 for both horizontal and vertical. Okay, so this way you're just looking at the answer choices, and because you have that constraint from the question statement that the axis length is equal, from that constraint you're making sense of what could be the potential selection criteria over here. Okay, does that make sense? Right, because you have to plot both these axes have to be of the same range. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take these axes with you, and you're going to, let me erase this part over here. You're now going to check each and every range over here to see which ones would meet the range and which ones would not. So I'm going to just write this range down over here so that we have that with us. Okay, so let me write that down. So I have 804 to 1173, and then I have 1060 to 1497. Okay, so what you have to do is figure out if each of these ranges, so 804 meets over here, right? 1500, absolutely. How about 106, 1060? Absolutely, this also meets here. For 1497 also meets here, which means that this is the correct answer. Again, what I'm doing over here is I'm checking whether this range covers each one of these points. That's what I'm checking. And this range does cover each one of these points. Let's take another one for as an example. 400 will definitely, so 400 absolutely covers all of these. But 1100, if my max is 1100, then obviously this one is not met and this one is not met, which means that this choice is definitely gone. Okay, likewise 400 over here, let's look at that. 800 definitely meets this and this. 1200, this one will not fit, which means that this choice is also gone. So again, the point being over here that you have to identify two axes with the same length and such that these points are part of that particular axis. Okay, now why only these points and why not the outliers? Because outlier information is just given there, right? What we are plotting, look at what we are plotting. She's plotting mean rents as a point. She's not plotting those outliers, and that's very important. That's the reason why we don't really have to worry about these points over here. So in this question, there was some additional information given to us over here, but we had to draw inference to understand that that information should not get in the way of our solving the question. Okay, and there was this information here that we are only plotting mean rents, right? Which is where 420 and 2262 are not really are not part of the scene. And I believe that a number of you would have been stumped because of this information. You probably didn't know how to account for this information. Is that correct? Because none of the choices will be able to take care of 2260, 2262, right? So again, the point being over here that you really have to own the data set. You have to understand, okay, what is the data set really telling me? What is the question really telling me? In this case, you will need to spend a lot of time on just reading the data set because it is such a dense data set. And then you spend the time in figuring out what the approach to solve this question is. And then you have to take your time to solve, to look at each and every range and then arrive at the answer. So Ganesh, if you miss the fact that both axes require equal scales, then this owning the data set and reading the data set with complete attention, that is something that you need to focus on. Because when the data sets are such dense, again, regardless of whether a data set is dense or not, you have to read each and every part of that data set. Okay, if you are simply skimming through the information, thinking which information would be important, which information will not be important, that is going to be a disaster. Okay, read the data set. And that's the reason why it's important to understand that in some cases you really have to spend that kind of time. In this question, you have to spend 1 minute 20 seconds in just reading the data set, whereas in the other questions over here, we spent only 35 seconds reading the data set. Okay, whereas in the questions above, let's go back above. Over here also, reading the data set was just 40 seconds. So don't just go with that mindset that I only have to spend 30 seconds or 40 seconds reading the data set. Whatever the data set is, you have to do full justice to it. Your goal needs to be, the mentality that you need to have is that I have to own the data set. And if you have that mentality, then any data insights question thrown at you, you will be able to solve it. Owning the data set, that is the most important thing. Does that make sense? So guys, if you are liking the session, please hit the like button so that I understand that you are truly enjoying it and that you're truly learning from it. Okay, let me hear some comments from you all. And because I have a question for you, I have one more question that we have to discuss. But before that, I have to ask you something about your personalized study plan. What is the study plan that you're following right now? So tell me, what have you learned so far from the session? And then also tell me about your study plan, because that's very important. And again, it's something that there'll be certain questions that are very easy for you. Early on in the session, there were certain questions which were easy. There were certain questions which do stump you. But you really have to understand, take the learnings from each and every question so that the following questions become easier for you. Okay. Likewise, when you have a study plan, you need to make sure that your study plan is truly tailored to your strengths and weaknesses. So my question to all of you is that, do you have a study plan that is tailored to what your current abilities are? And as you answer that question, I'm going to set this up for my next demo over here. And let me just remove this part here. And yes, Ankur, owning the data set is the key to TP. I'm really happy that you're using the right terminology over here, owning the data set. Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. Stop screen, present, share screen, window. Okay. So give me about 2 minutes just to give you a demo of this study plan, okay? And then I'm going to ask you this question as to whether you guys have such a study plan or not, okay? So over here, create your study plan. In order to create your plan, you need to have a score from either your actual GMAT attempt or your MBA or your mock test or Sigma X mock test. Okay, so let's create this. I'm going to put my target GMAT score as 685. The system takes that and the system says that, okay, this is 97 percentile. Okay, now I'm going to set my current GMAT score. I'm going to set it as 575. Okay, and then I'm going to say that I got this from Sigma X mock. I'm going to go to next, and right now the system is saying that yes, this is 62nd percentile. Okay, so I have to go from 575 to 685, which means I have to go from 62nd percentile to 97 percentile. So it's putting everything in the right context. Okay. Now the next thing is to set up my sectional scores, which means that what did I get in verbal? Let's say I had a 77 in verbal. In quant, I'm at 82 right now. And the system is smart enough to see that if I'm at 77 in verbal and in quant, if I'm at 82, then that means in DI, I have to be between 75 and 79. Okay, so you can't just enter any random value over here. So let's go with 76. I'm going to put that over here. And now I'm going to set, the system is going to look at what my target score is, look at what my starting scores are, and understand my relative strengths and weaknesses. It's really relative strengths and weaknesses that it's going to understand. And it's going to give me, look at about 110 probable paths, and it's going to give me the most optimal path to my target GMAT score. So it says you go in verbal, you target an 83, in quant, you target an 88 because quant is your strength, and in data insights, you target an 81. Now, I may want to choose an alternate path over here. So I could really say, let me push my quant a little bit more. So I could go with the alternate one. Or I could say that let me push my DI a little bit more. I am actually better than better than what I performed, right? Or I can say, you know what, I really want to do my verbal at 86, and quant, I'm kind of just, yeah. And then the system tells me that, look, yes, you want to go into 86 in verbal, but this is going to be 56% more challenging. The system understands what is going to be easier for me, what is going to be more efficient for me. Okay, so I take that feedback from the system and I say, let me go with the recommended path. That's going to take me about 12 and a half weeks to do. Next, what it's going to do is it's going to set my subsectional targets over here. So it's working on that. So it actually has given me a journey view of my of each and every section. In verbal, I need to spend majority of my time in learning the concepts. That's stage one. That's in orange color over here. And then cementing has to be done, 16 hours for that. And then test readiness, something that's very, very critical, 20 hours for that. But versus in quant, I spend first time on my cementing, and then I bridge my gaps in using the course. So I spend about 29 hours there, but I really don't have to go through the entire course. And then I spend time in doing test readiness. And then likewise for data insights. So this way I get a proper idea of what I'm doing. Okay. Now, the next thing is for me to get more in-depth information with regards to my subsections, because when I'm preparing for verbal, I am actually preparing for CR separately, and then I'm preparing for RC separately. So I actually put in this information, and this is subsectional abilities is what the Sigma X mock provides me with. Okay, so I put that information and then I get my verbal milestones. Okay, the system is working through everything, and then it says, okay, from CR, I have to go from, in CR, I have to go from 37 to 80. In RC, I have to go from 29 to 83. Okay, and it's going to take me about 4.5 weeks. And this is assuming that I'm spending 20 hours per week. Okay, then I do the same thing for quant. So we are going to rush through that right now. So quant, again, this is the input that Sigma X mock gives me. By the way, your what was I saying? GMAT prep mocks would not give you this information, but yeah, Sigma X mock provides you with relative abilities between the subsections as well, right? So I'm going to accept that right now, and then we're going to do the same thing for DS for DI. So I'm good at DS here. Here's where I'm at, and then this one TPA, and then MSR is my weakest section. So let's get that. The next thing that's going to happen is it's going to give me a complete journey. It's going to summarize the entire journey, and then it's going to help me plan my my daily time commitments. So let's get the time commitment here. Next. Yeah. So now the system has assumed 2 hours per weekday and 5 hours on the weekend. But I could actually say that, I really have to, I really cannot spend 2 hours on Mondays because Mondays are really busy. I can compensate for Monday on Wednesday, and I can actually add 1 more hour on Thursday. In fact, on Wednesday also I've added 1 more hour. And then weekends, I want to really finish my prep, and I can afford to spend 6 hours every day on the weekend. So now instead of the so now it's going to take these new commitments, and it's going to give me my tentative GMAT test date. And there you go. From if I start from today onwards, then within 10.5 weeks, I can get to my target GMAT score. and I accept that. And then it gives me a detailed journey view of my entire prep. So if I look at my verbal journey, it tells me that I need to first finish my master comprehension course, then I need to do CR, I need to do cementing in CR, then RC, and then I need to do verbal test readiness, and then likewise for each and everything. Okay, so the thing over here is that it's very important. So let me just stop sharing this right now. Okay, so this is the personalized study plan that you guys can create if you are EGMAT students. So do you have a personalized study plan such as this one? Plan that is truly that truly is personalized. It's not a cookie cutter 30-day plan, it's not a cookie cutter 45-day plan. It is a plan which is truly based on what your starting abilities are and what your target ability needs to be, okay, in each of the three subsections, in each of the three sections, and then in each of the three subsections. So tell me, what do you make of this study plan? All right, no comments? Pretty useful. Thank you, Ganesh. Lots of data, absolutely. Lots of data, because that data is required so that you guys spend the time in the most efficient manner. Okay. The way our processes are very much aligned to making sure that you have the best processes, you have the most efficient methods of solving the questions. The same way we have designed all these tools so that you have the most efficient path forward to your target GMAT. Okay, that's where the personalized study planner comes into picture. All right, so I'm going to stop my screen and then let's look at our last question of this session. And then I have four questions that I'm going to give you as homework with detailed solutions for those. Okay, so this is a question. Go ahead and start solving it. I'm going to share the link with you for the form. All right, so I don't have very many responses yet, and only two people have been able to put in the answers. So I'm going to discuss this question because if you are solving this question by using equations, so that's my first question to you. Are you trying to utilize equations to solve this question? Yes, no? Because if you're doing that, then you will end up taking upwards of about 4.5 minutes to be able to arrive at the answer. There's nothing wrong in that approach, but it's not the efficient approach. It's not the most efficient approach to be able to implement in the test environment. Okay, and a lot of what we are talking about here is how is it that you should be allocating your time and processing this information in the test environment, and the crux of all of that is you need to do that analysis upfront. Okay, so I'm going to now read this question and okay, so let's solve this one. So here what's happening is you have this manufacturing company that is building robots, right? And they're building robots at the start of each year over 5 years. Each robot is going to result in these savings of 150K, okay? And they will have an upfront cost of 400K. So, and this 150K is going to happen in the beginning of the year itself of the installation, right? Now, for the robot installation in year one, the company will budget 600K, okay, plus the total amount of labor cost that will be saved by robotic production in that year. So, you have in the budget for year one, you have robot installation, okay, that hold on. So year one budget is 600K. So I'm going to write down 600K over here. Plus any savings that happen. And what are the savings that happen? Savings that happen are 150K per robot, right, in that year. So that's the budget for year one. Now, what is the budget for the rest of the year? The robot installation budget for each subsequent year will consist of the total amount of labor costs that will be saved by robotic production in that year, plus any money left over from previous year's robot installation budget. So for the first year, if you look at it, there is a kickstart budget that has been provided of 600K. But for any subsequent years, so year two onwards, it is going to be all of the savings that happen, okay? Savings plus whatever is the leftover from the previous years, okay? That is what. So there is no additional money that is being poured in. So there is no additional money. The additional money is only in the first year. So that understanding you need to have before as you're reading this data set. So don't just focus on this based on numbers, okay? Understand what's going on. Year one, there is budget that is being poured in. Year two, it's almost like a self-sustaining system. Whatever is the savings that is happening, and whatever is the leftover from the previous year, that is going to be utilized for that particular for the installation in that year. Okay, so far so good. Now, the next thing over here is what is it that we have to find? Within budget constraints, the maximum number of robots that can be installed in year one of the program is what? And maximum number of robots that can be installed in year three. So we have to go from year one to year two to year three. So there's a lot of processing that we will need to do if we have to solve this question using equations. Okay. So that is something that you need to understand, which is where you have to draw certain inferences before you go further. Okay. Now let's look at it from the robot standpoint, each robot. Okay. So before I even process anything, let me understand this. A robot, in the year that it has to be installed, what is the installation cost? The cost to the company is 400K, right? And what is the saving for it? Saving from it is 150K. And remember, the savings happen in the same year itself, right? Beginning with the year of its installation. Okay, which means overall cost to the company is 250K, right? In the year that the robot has to be installed, the overall cost to the company is 250K. Okay. Now, why is this information important? It's important because we have to really segregate over here the robots that are being installed versus the robots that are leading to the savings that happen in the second year, okay, and in the third year. So let's take a look at just the first year right now. In the first year, what's happening? In year one, what's the budget? Your budget is 600K, okay. Now, there is this saving part as well of the budget, but we have already accounted for that in this cost to the company for each robot. Okay. So literally, I have 600K of budget and I have 250K for each robot, right? Which means how many robots can I make over here? I can get two robots over here, two robots over here. And how much is the leftover? The leftover is going to be 100K. Everyone with me for this one? I'm not making any equations. I've just understood the entire scene. And what I'm saying is that instead of considering my budget to be 600K plus savings of 150K, what I have done is I have my, in the year of installation, the robot needs installation cost. The robot also yields with savings. Okay. But in the further years, the robot will only give me savings. There is no cost associated with the robot, right? So let me just distinguish between those two and then uh, get my processing done that way. Okay. So now this is for my year one. Okay. Now let's work out year two. What's happening in year two? I'm going to make this a little bit smaller here. Okay. Now in year two, what is happening? Year two, I have savings from old robot. Okay. Then I have installation of the new robot, installation of new robot plus whatever is the cost to the company, right? Plus I have the leftover from last year, right? So now this is obviously the cost, right? These are the savings. Okay. Now savings from the old one would be what? 150K times how many robots? Two robots, right? So that is 300K. Leftover from last year was what? 100K. So that is my budget here, 300K and 400K. The 300K and so that this is 400K. Now how much do I need? I need 250K, which means that I can actually make one robot over here. And how much would be the leftover? Leftover will be 150K. Got it? So for year two, I have one robot with leftover. Okay. Right? Now, let's go to year three. Year three, again, same thing. What are the savings from old one? Savings from old. How many old do I have? I have 150K times three robots, right? So that is 450K. What is the leftover budget? Leftover budget was 150K, right? This is the leftover budget here over here, 150K. So what is my total budget over here? 600K, which means how many can I make? I can make two robots plus 100K leftover. That is the answer that I was looking for. So overall, in year three, I have 2 plus 1 plus 2 in year one. So I have total of 5 over here, right? 5 over here, and I had 2 over here. So that's my answer. So how many robots are in service? That is what I needed to find out, right? How many years, maximum number of robots that are in service in year three. So now tell me, were you able to solve this question in this manner? Segregating, not just taking the information as is, but drawing inferences from it so that you make your own data set based on the information that has been given to you. You reorganize the information. Instead of considering the budget to be 600K plus 150 per robot, you actually you understand that, okay, there are these segments over here. What are my segments? My segments are, so my robot in first year, it is being installed, okay, and then in second year onwards it is giving me savings. Okay, so first year cost to the company is 250K. Second year onwards, it is actually beneficial for the company. Okay, so if you think about it that way, and then you also segregate that, okay, in my first year, my budget is different. First year budget has 600K cash infused, and then you have the savings, but that has already been taken care of. But year two onwards, what you have are the savings from all the robots, plus you have the leftover part. Okay, so this is the drilling down that we did based on our understanding of the data set. Okay, now if you don't do this drilling down, then solving the question by formulating equations would really take a lot of time. It would end up you would end up taking 5 minutes or more. And that is where you have to get in that habit of drawing such inferences. Don't just jump into the actual processing of it. Understand, make this is what we call as own the data set. Okay. When you're owning the data set, you are morphing it in the way that you can handle it, that you can process it. So, Navshinder, if you did it for the similar manner in year one, then there must have been somewhere that some segmentation that you were not able to do. Either you were not able to do this segmentation or this budget allocation segmentation. So understand which step were you not able to follow along. Okay. So overall, if I were to summarize this question again, in this case, you have to spend a minute just reading the data set, and then you have to spend another minute just drawing inferences from the data set. Here, the entire, instead of just drawing inference from an equation, you have to morph this entire data set into something that you can utilize, and that is what is going to lead to solving this question in the most efficient manner, and it can be solved in under 2.5 minutes. Okay. All right. So with this, we've come to the end of 6 questions that I needed to do in this session within the time constraints of the session. But I promised you 10 hard questions. So I have this homework packet for you. So let me share this with you, the link with you. There are 4 difficult questions in this, and there are video solutions as well. So if you look at this Excel sheet, it has the links for the questions and then link for the video solution. So definitely take a look at it, and I will be able to check how you performed. And if you have any questions, definitely ask us. And yeah, let me see if there is anything else. And then I've also shared some important links over here. So in this PDF, let me just show you. Thank you so much, Ganesh. I really appreciate that. Okay. So these are the links that I have shared with you. So you can download this Excel. These are very, I mean, whenever you're taking mocks, make sure that you know exactly how to analyze your mocks. So we have published a very detailed video. So look at that. If you are EGMAT student, and even if you're not EGMAT student, there's one SigmaX mock available free of charge for you. So definitely look at how to analyze your SigmaX mock. Then you have wealth of official resources. So I have recently published this video on how is it that you should be utilizing official resources. You can make cementing quizzes using it. You can make test readiness quizzes using it. But there are certain downsides of the official platform in terms of RC and MSR. So definitely look at that as well. And then SigmaX mock, as I said, is available free of charge to all of you. One SigmaX mock, so you can access that, and then the free trial as well. And there is this very interesting article that Rajat wrote in terms for in order to there are five challenges and how to overcome those challenges. So definitely take a look at that as well. And then these are your homework links and these are your solution links. So definitely post your questions in the comments um, for these videos so that we can address any doubts that you may have. Now I would definitely request you to to hit the like button, and once this session is done, the comments for this video will be activated. So I would request all of you to put a comment on what is it that you learned from this session, so that viewers of this recording can also understand that okay, they can also get those kinds of takeaways. That would be really beneficial for your fellow test takers, and that would tell me as to how much you've learned. So what are a couple of things that you're going to take care of as you are solving TPA questions from now onwards? I would like to hear that, and then we are going to end this session. Dishant, custom quizzes are EGMAT's best features, helps a lot in increasing section specific speed. Absolutely, Dishant. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Yes. Thank you, Navshinder. Really appreciate it. I think I saw you in the Sunday webinar as well, right, Navshinder? Your name seems familiar. Thank you, Ganesh. All right, so tell me about your learnings. What are you going to implement going forward as you solve TPA questions? Have a more sincere approach. Okay, elaborate a little bit more, Ganesh. Own the data set, right? Spend the time in reading the data set. Read slowly, draw inferences, look at what answer choices can be eliminated. Good, Navshinder. Good. Read slowly. That is the key. Drawing inferences, absolutely. And again, when you're reading slowly, engage yourself with the data set. Okay, because that's going to make a huge difference. Very nice. And then let's look at to not read any part of the question complacently. Absolutely. Very well said. And then Dishant is saying know the data set more than the analyst who made it. That's a good approach, Dishant. Yes. Absolutely. That's what it means to truly own the data set. All right. So with this, we're going to end this webinar. Thank you so much. You were a wonderful audience, and let us know what other types of webinars you would want us to create. But definitely put your likes and put your comments so that we keep coming back to you with more content such as this one. Okay, because that's what tells us that you're truly enjoying this and you're truly we want to make sure that the time that you're spending with us is really beneficial for you. So your comments would definitely tell us that. So definitely, as soon as I end this webinar, definitely put the comments in the YouTube video there. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Happy learning. And let us know if you have any questions. Bye-bye. You can write to me at pile@e-gmat.com if you have any questions. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.